Hey, what is up, you guys? This is Heath, Anthony, and Carlos with the Malco Cast. Thank you guys very much for joining us today. Today we're talking about the dirty, dirty snub that the Halloween, right? It's a Halloween shit show. No, that the Hall of Fame recently gave to the metal acts, guys. The metal acts. What a shit show this is, and that's why I've subconsciously said it was a Halloween thing. But no, I mean it's equally gruesome, right? I mean, because what are they doing to the metal acts over there at the Hall of Fame, the inductees, man?
Dude, they're not doing anything for the metal acts at the Hall of Fame, dude.
They ain't doing shit, right?
Like,
what the fuck is wrong with him?
Iron Maiden, you don't induct Iron Maiden into the Hall of Fame, dude. Like, it's mind blowing. It kills me, dude. Like, don't get me wrong. There's great acts that deserve to be there, but Iron Maiden, like, they're one of the most influential metal bands ever. You know, like
it's a no brainer for us.
This isn't the first time they've been snubbed either. This isn't the first time.
No, it's not the first time. Like, dude, but you know, like, there's just a history of the Hall of Fame just snubbing metal bands. Like, dude, you got Motley Crue, who has been eligible since 2006. You can't tell me that they haven't been an influential metal band.
But maybe they should change the name, dude. They should change the name to not Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right.
Right, dude. Well, Slayer, they've been eligible since 2008 for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Thin Lizzy since 1996, dude. Like, they've been eligible for the Hall of Fame. Judas Priest, 99. They've been eligible since 1999. How did these bands not make it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
It's insane. I was thinking about it. Carlos is on it, man. It's like they just need to change the name, because it's just, I mean, I get it. Let honor. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't, every one of them doesn't have to be rock and roll. I guess, let's throw some that are close. But I mean, I feel like we're kind of just pushing it. It's like, just call it something else. It's just because it just doesn't feel like, especially with this year's. And again, it's not that they're not talented people. It's not that it's not a good group of, nominees. But man.
But can either of you guys honestly say, though, that you were surprised that, like, Rage Against the Machine was also snubbed and, like, Iron Maiden was snubbed? I mean,
to be honest with you, I was surprised that Iron Maiden was snubbed. And to be honest with you, I'm okay that Rage Against the Machine was snubbed. I don't think there's enough history for Rage Against the Machine, in my honest opinion, to be considered a Hall of Fame band. Like, they haven't put out enough music to show that they're worthy of that. They've only really put out how many albums? 3?
I think Tom Morello would take issue with that, but that's a different story.
But, like, Iron Maiden, come on, like, they took the theatrics in metal music to a whole different level, dude. Like, I mean, think about, like, in the Limp Bizkit's big eras, like, all the stuff that they were doing. Who did you think that they probably got that from? Right. Iron Maiden, like.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's take a look at who did get in, right? There's Tina Turner. Tina Turner got in. Carole King. The Go-Go's. I love the Go-Go's. Jay-Z, which is, Jay-Z, rock and roll, I don't know. Foo Fighters. I like the Foo Fighters. And Todd Rundgren? I don't know how to say the damn name. Rundgren. Is that country? I don't even know.
No, he's like a producer, songwriter, singer. He's like he's a jack of all trades, like he's produced a bunch of artists.
Yeah.
So he deserved. I don't think he's on. I'm not sure if he's in on the performance side of that.
Yeah. He is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what killed me, dude, is, like, you read that Greg Harris, the CEO of the Hall of Fame, is like says stuff about heavy metal. We celebrate all forms of rock and roll. We nominated Maiden and Priest, kind of like is throwing a bone, and then he's like, we put in Def Leppard, and it's kind of like Def Leppard's not metal, man. Like they're rock and roll. It's like that's a backhanded slap to the face by the CEO of the Hall of Fame.
Well, it's not entirely on him though, right? I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate, and I know this, right? So the requirements to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you have to have released your first record 25 years prior to the induction. From there, the ballots are sent to an international voting body of 1,200 artists. So those artists, they include living inductees, members of the music industry, and historians. So, I mean, it's not all on the CEO, even though he was the one to go on the radio to kind of defend the snubs that were recently handed down. But, I mean, it's the artists themselves that also have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and again, this is just where it's just kind of weird when I think about, like, what are they thinking about when they're looking at the criteria for, you know, is this band Hall of Fame material? I mean, I'm just baffled. I'm thinking to myself, if I was sitting in that, if I got that ballot, you know, I don't know that I would have voted for anyone that was on the list this year. I really don't.
Hey, let's play.
I mean, that actually got in, is what I should say. Right. The winners. I think there were plenty of the other nominees that would have been that I would have voted for.
Yeah.
Hey, let's play a quick game, a real quick game.
Let's do it.
We'll call it metal, not metal. Okay.
All right.
Green Day.
Not metal.
Not metal.
Okay. Guns N' Roses.
Rock and roll, but not metal.
Yeah, not metal.
Okay, Metallica.
Metal.
Metal.
Black Sabbath.
Metal.
AC/DC.
Metal.
Metal.
Queen.
Not metal.
Not metal.
Zeppelin.
Not metal.
Still on it.
Nine Inch Nails.
Not metal.
Okay.
I don't know. So industrial metal.
Okay, so for 239 inductees in the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, 3 metal bands that you guys would consider metal bands in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame right now.
Wow. Yep. Wow. Wow.
Since 84 or 85, and that amount of time, dude, they've only put in what you would consider 3 metal bands, dude. If that's not bullshit, I don't know what is.
One a decade. 1 per 100.
So what does that say, though? What does that say about the credibility of this whole racket, you know, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
It should be the Pop Music Hall of Fame. Because that's what it basically is. It's the Pop Music Hall of Fame. Yeah, that's what it is.
So are you guys not happy then? Let me try to understand this. You guys aren't happy with any of the inductees on there?
No, I'm saying there's great inductees.
Mm-hmm. Well, who would you consider?
Tina Turner, Foo Fighters, the Go-Go's, dude. Like, that's all great.
Yeah.
But you know what? Iron Maiden, come on, man. Like, that's just...
What about Jay-Z?
And I'll be honest with you. I'm not a huge Iron Maiden fan. I'm really not. Like, I like Somewhere in Time, but I understand their place in rock and roll history and metal history and music history.
Yeah.
So, like, it's shitty that they're not recognized for what they have meant to a generation of metal fans and music fans.
Well, what do you feel about Jay-Z being on there? I mean, me personally, I don't think he belongs on there.
No.
And that's just because I don't like Jay-Z. I never have. I never did. I like rap, but I don't like Jay-Z. You know.
I feel you on that. I'm not a huge Jay-Z guy. I think he's had a couple good songs, but in fairness to that, and I'm sure Heath will say the same thing. Maybe, or no, I'm not a big hip hop guy. I do like rap music. But I don't listen to it as much as maybe Heath does, or maybe you do. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Let me shoot a quote to you guys. Let me throw this out there. And Anthony mentioned that Greg Harris was on the radio defending, the snubs and stuff. And in the interview with the radio station, it was WBAB. I don't know exactly where that is, but he said during the interview, there's no doubt that Maiden are impactful, influential, and that's why they were nominated this year along with 15 other artists and acts. So we're not questioning, are they an important band? Are they impactful and influential? And then he goes on to say, I think people need to expand their thinking of rock and roll. It's a big tent. Rock and roll was never just four skinny guys with long hair and guitars. It's always been diverse. I'm sure he wasn't talking about Zero Belly, because we weren't like that. Skinny guys with long hair. But anyways, what kind of a quote is that? Like, I think he's like talking about the spirit of rock and roll, like the attitude of rock and roll. But anybody who's really truly rock and roll doesn't give a shit about a fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame award, right? I mean, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I do hear what he's saying about it. Rock and roll being a large tent, I think we have gone to this point where there are so many genres and subgenres that it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, even in metal, like the number of subgenres of metal, it's insane.
You think it's overwhelming?
So I get in there, I understand, but still we're kind of. I just feel like they just keep stretching it, and it's like, okay, at some point we just give up on saying, like, I think like Anthony said, let's just call it the Pop Music Hall of Fame, because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
And I actually went out to Cleveland. I was out there on a business trip, and so I got to go visit the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, man. I'll be honest with you, I was underwhelmed.
Why is that though?
I guess my expectations were much higher. I just really thought, like, oh man, this is going to be pretty amazing. But to be honest with you, like, I want to say I was through the whole thing in probably less than an hour. I mean, it's really not as much memorabilia as you would expect. There's some cool stuff, obviously, don't get me wrong. And I think, to me, my favorite part of that was upstairs. They have an entire room that's dedicated to one. It'll be dedicated. It's kind of it'll be like an exhibition of a certain artist, and it'll be up for like 6 months or something like that, and then it'll rotate to another one. So when I was there, it was the Doors. So I'm a huge Doors fan. So for me, that was pretty cool. And it is cool when you get to go in there, because there's lots of photographs and articles and all kinds of different stuff hanging all over the wall and stuff like that. But I just was not impressed, not at all.
Dude, thinking about that guy's quote though, if it's such a big blanket, then why has there only been 3 metal bands and 239 inductees? Like,
right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Heath, but I was thinking about that when Carlos had asked. Like, I don't know, man. I think there should be like a band from every genre, like, taken each year. Like,
that's a great idea.
Like, why not? Like, if we're talking, if he's gonna say that kind of statement, then like, you have to support every genre out there, like,
absolutely. That's a great idea, and it's not like they couldn't add Iron Maiden. It's not like they should like not limit the number of people that get in.
Dude, and what? If Iron Maiden ever gets in, and God willing they do before their career is over, who's gonna have the best Hall of Fame show ever?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's gonna be 3 or 4 songs of the most awesome four song set you're ever gonna see. You know, like so. And you're gonna see 70-some-year-old Bruce Dickinson jumping around like a wild man. I'm sure still do like.
Did you say
and Eddie will be popping up in the background?
Did you say earlier that Ozzy's not in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, Ozzy's not in the Hall of Fame. I believe he is with Black Sabbath. He is with Sabbath, but he should be in on his own career, dude. Like
yeah,
dude. Pantera, they're not in the Hall of Fame.
Pantera,
Scorpions, they're not in the Hall of Fame. Dio, Ronnie James Dio is not in the Hall of Fame.
That's nuts.
Motorhead is not in the Hall of Fame.
It's like what? It'd be interesting to know who were those 1,200 artists that voted on this. Like,
yeah.
I mean, who did they ask?
Dude, like, how is Rage Against the Machine up for the Hall of Fame right now, but the Deftones aren't?
Right, the Deftones, yes, exactly.
You know?
But has it been 25 years since the last since White Pony came out, or not White Pony, I guess, but their first album?
Right.
Adrenaline.
Yeah, Adrenaline. But like, I mean, you got Tool, bands like Tool, but aren't in. But Rage Against the Machine is up for it. You know, like these are bands that are still out there doing stuff. Rage Against the Machine really hasn't done anything in years, and.
Do I sense a bit of
No. We'll save that for another day.
Okay, we'll save that for another day. There's some shade in the Malco cast today. But it's all good. It is all good.
But dude, it's just yeah.
Man, I don't know. I just people are just really, really upset that Iron Maiden isn't in. And I think my take is that, like, to me, I think that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a meaningless kind of thing. And that's just because it's somebody's opinion, right? And their opinion matters only to them and to the recipients, right? But we here as music lovers have our own opinions about this stuff. And personally, you know, I don't think Jay-Z belongs in there. I don't know who this Todd Rundgren dude is. I don't know who that is. Carole King. Okay, who's Carole King? I don't know. So I don't think that they belong in there. So, you know, I can't give it the weight that they're giving it because it's their opinion and I don't really value their opinion.
For me, though, to me, rock and roll is and always will be basically four dudes with an instrument wearing jeans do like on stage. To me, that's rock and roll, you know, like, or whatever the quote was that dude laid out there.
Right.
To me, that's rock and roll. Some of these other people, they've been in pop.
But is the metal genre? Is the metal genre doing, you know? And we've talked about this before, right? I mean, in the whole Is Rock Dead podcast that we did, is the metal genre doing itself a disservice by being so kind of niche and so secluded from other forms of music? You know, can the family of four or even the soccer mom and her two teenage daughters go to a Metallica concert and have the same experience that, you know, everybody...
To be honest, as somebody who has recently seen Metallica in the last 2 or so years, yeah, like, it's like going to see Cirque du Soleil now. You know, like it's more show than metal, and nowadays that's going to be that's 100% the.
Okay, maybe
truth.
That's a bad example. Right? Maybe that's a bad.
But no, I Carlos, I think you're onto something though. I mean, it is kind of, you know, metal is very. It's not the most accepted, you know, it's not the most mainstream of music genres.
Right.
I was talking to somebody the other night, and I was like, you know, it probably would have been smarter to go into country or pop because, you know, there's a lot more people listening to that stuff. But you know what? Those of us that are metalheads, like, we love metal for a reason. And so, I think you're right. I think there is something to be said as far as, this niche genre that we have, put ourselves in. Maybe it's kind of like, hey, that's the cross we have to bear, man.
Yeah. You got to pay the price to rock and roll these days, I guess, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it doesn't seem that like Iron Maiden, at least in the eyes of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, hasn't.
Hey, never mind. I was about to drop the dumbest cliche or some stupid bullshit about. I was going to try to throw one of their song titles or something into like the Hall of Fame is running to the hills from them or something.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
What a shame. What a shame.
Watch, they'll get in next year. Next year.
Next year.
Next
year,
will be
baby.
the year.
That's what it
Let's
is.
hope.
Well, any closing thoughts you guys have on this issue?
I think I'm with you, Carlos. I'm to the point where I'm like, this is just kind of worthless. It's like,
Yeah.
I think the coolest part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in the induction ceremony when you get to see that, some of those acts get up there and perform and do their thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I dig that. But other than that, it's like you said, it's 1,200 people's, opinion, when in reality, how many millions of people are that are listening to it, on a daily basis. So.
Exactly.
Hey, LL Cool J, he got in there too, under a different category or something.
But I think that
Yeah.
was just an award, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's still like induction into the Hall of Fame. But they have 3 categories or something like that, 3 different categories.
Yeah.
He got in under one of the other categories. But,
Interesting.
yeah, it just sucks for me, dude, because I love rock and roll. And like, a couple years ago, I watched the Stevie Nicks performance on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and and I love that stuff. And I respect everybody's talent that has gotten in. I just wish that the respect for the metal talent would be more widespread. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I was saying from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
No, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
until it is, I don't think I will be visiting the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So,
Well,
I'm not sure they don't care, but that's all right.
but you have to go and try to find the pick of destiny at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, and you guys know my position. I think it's a sham. I think it's meaningless. It's just other people's opinion, and congratulations though to the people who did make it. And I kind of want to see the performances. The Foo Fighters, I think are my favorite out of that graduating class of 2021. And Tina Turner, well, she's a diva. I mean, she's great. She's put out a lot of good music.
Well, she's got an amazing story, dude. So
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So I'm not hating on her. I am hating
No,
on
there's
Jay-Z, though. I am hating on Jay-Z because, fuck Jay-Z. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for the MalcoCast, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And while you're at it, go over to the Malcontent Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make sure that you guys are signed up for those too, because we are always posting content on those sites. And once again, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for the continued support. We appreciate you guys, and we wish you a good rest of your day. Peace.
peace.